Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. My name is Hunter on this Thursday, December 19th, 2024. This is your afternoon and evening update. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe to the channel and check back often for updates, as we're going to keep you updated all winter long on your weather forecast and beyond as well. Leave any likes down below if you do like the video. Also, share this video with friends, family, and on social media. And of course, leave any comments, questions, concerns below. We'll get to those later on after the video. What we're looking at here in this afternoon evening update is colder temperatures and impactful weather with snowfall across parts of the United States and a couple of bigger snowstorms, especially out across the west as we go into early January. We're going to break down everything that you need to know in this forecast. So this afternoon, here are your temperatures. We got the Arctic air up here across the far northern United States, more so into southern Canada. And here are your wind chills, biting wind chills across the Dakotas, northwestern Minnesota this afternoon. Wind chills that are in the 5 below to 15 below zero range across these regions, and they are going to be importing even colder air for your Friday morning. Notice the freezing line all the way down here into the Oklahoma City area, Tulsa, and even the Fort Smith, Arkansas region down into the lower 30s to start Friday morning. Here are your wind chills. Notice the negatives, those negative single digits, negative teens for wind chills up here again across the Dakotas, parts of eastern Nebraska, Minnesota, western Iowa, and northwest Wisconsin. The minus 20 and 30 degree wind chills will stay up in southern Canada to start the day on Friday. Afternoon highs on Friday, not going to recover too much. Still hanging around with some Arctic air up into the upper Midwest, single digits to teens for highs, 20s a little bit further down to the south. Wind chills remaining near or below zero for most of the afternoon tomorrow, again across the Dakotas, Minnesota, and the Northwoods of Wisconsin. Let's look here at the weather alerts across the country. We still are hanging on here to those purples. Those are winter weather advisories. Those pinks, those are winter storm warnings, where impactful winter weather in the form of snowfall is moving across parts of the Dakotas, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Michigan. We have in the tan shaded colors, those are wind advisories, and in the darker tan shaded colors, those are high wind warnings, where we are still expecting those gusty winds to persist here over the next few hours. Notice those wind gusts through the rest of the afternoon here across portions of Nebraska, into South Dakota, into Iowa, into northern Kansas. Could be blowing with gusto out of the north and west over 50 or 60 miles per hour. And this is going to be causing the potential for isolated to scattered power outages across this region with just simply how strong the winds are. Going into the evening, those winds will decouple a little bit, which means they're going to diminish in intensity, but still seeing some gustier winds in and around the Omaha region, Des Moines, Kansas City, Topeka. We could still be seeing wind gusts near 50 miles per hour heading into this evening. And then finally, early Friday morning, those winds decouple a little bit more, and we start to see those winds tapering off from west to east, but still seeing those gusts over 30 miles per hour at times across the tri-state area of Iowa, Missouri, and Illinois. Looking at snowfall reports, a strong clipper system. This is an Alberta clipper that has moved down across the upper Midwest, bringing a lot of snow reports in the dark blues of 4 to 6 inch range, even some isolated 6 to 8 to 12 inch range snowfall from the Dakotas, in particular North Dakota, down through central Minnesota near the Twin Cities, La Crosse, Wisconsin here, definitely in the crosshairs there as well. Madison all the way down to Milwaukee, and then into the northern suburbs of Chicago, likely to see some snowfall reports coming in here in the next few hours. Looking at that this afternoon, we're going to still see those snowflakes continue to fly across parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, and far northern Illinois. Those will sneak into lower Michigan as well. Going into tonight, we're going to see the snowfall continue to fly across the Great Lakes and into the northern Ohio Valley. So if you're in Fort Wayne, Toledo, Detroit, definitely going to be keeping an eye on that. Going into Friday, we got some snowflakes in and around places like Cincinnati, Columbus, Indianapolis. More concentrated snow a little bit further to the east into Scranton, in toward the Harrisburg region, into Pennsylvania, Albany, New York, Buffalo, and Orchard Park here as well. Be keeping an eye on that. And then that will be tapering off from west to east as we go into Friday evening and Friday night across the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. Here are the additional snowfall accumulations we can expect with this system as it continues to depart across the eastern U.S. We could be seeing an additional 2 to 4 inches across parts of southern, southeastern Wisconsin, closer toward toward the Lake Michigan shoreline. That's where the highest accumulations will be, closer towards portions of Green Bay and Milwaukee. And then a couple inches of snow there for central and northern lower Michigan, and then an inch or so of snow from northern Pennsylvania into New York State, into Vermont, and even New Hampshire as we go between now and Saturday, December 21st. And this could bring some impacts to the roadways, so make sure to take it slow on the roadways, especially if you know they're snow covered, because it won't take much to cause some travel problems across the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, or the Northeast over the next 24 to 48 hours for something to watch out for. Looking here at the temperature anomalies this weekend, Saturday the 21st and Sunday the 22nd here, the weekend before Christmas, and notice Arctic air continuing to move across the eastern United States. Pretty cold weekend for the east, pretty warm weekend, above normal temperatures for the west and also into western Canada. Here are your high temperatures Saturday afternoon. Again, the coldest of air across the north and the east. We'll see temperatures into the 20s and even the teens for highs across those areas. And then a little bit more mild weather with the Pacific air moving off the Pacific Ocean into the western U.S. here and into the southern U.S. for Saturday. Sunday morning, we're going to start off pretty chilly across the Great Lakes, especially in the areas that have that deep snowpack around the Great Lakes from lake effect snowfall from previous systems, or a couple snowstorms we saw from Maine down to Pennsylvania. Those areas will likely be locked in the single digits for lows as we go into Sunday morning. Wind chills will be colder than that, and then we'll recover nicely Sunday afternoon. Although the Northeast will remain in the teens for highs, we're going to see a bump in our numbers up into the 50s as far north as Rapid City, South Dakota. As we go into Sunday, the Denver area could be seeing the 60s as we go into Sunday as well. Pretty uneventful it will be for precipitation standards over the weekend. Seeing maybe a little bit of snowfall across the west here. Seattle, Portland, down into Northern California. Nothing we can't handle, and that will continue into Sunday as well. Otherwise, the central and eastern U.S. and much of southern Canada will be precipitation free for the most part as we go through the weekend. Heading into next week, this is Christmas week, Monday, December 23rd through Friday, December 27th. Big ridge of high pressure starting to develop here over Hudson Bay in eastern Canada. Big trough over here into the Gulf of Alaska and up into Alaska as we go into next week. That will spell out a warming trend, and a significant warming trend as we go through much of next week. And this is going to be temperatures in Canada that could be up to 40, 45 degrees above the norm for this time of year with that strong Canadian Hudson Bay high pressure system. And then across central and western U.S., we're going to see some warmer air as well as we go through next week. We're going to see some bigger storm systems moving across the country, at least for the west coast. The systems that move across the middle of the country will have some rich moisture with them, and possibly even some severe weather, but we're not looking at any doozies of any snowstorms in the middle of the country or any major severe weather outbreaks next week. Let's walk you through it here on Monday. Pretty uneventful, a couple weak systems, one up here toward the Great Lakes, one up here into the Pacific Northwest, bringing either a mix of rain and snow or just some light snow overall. Not expecting too much from that on Monday. Christmas Eve, Tuesday, bigger storm moves in across the west, higher elevation snow for the Sierras and the Cascades. Definitely could be seeing some feet of snow over there, some rain and heavier rain at that for Western California. Christmas Day, that moves to the east, got a low pressure on the lee side of the Rockies near Denver. That could spell out maybe some snowfall, some moderate snow bands there across central Rockies, some rainfall out ahead of that as that warmer air continues to surge further to the north. Thursday, we got some moisture kind of hanging around the middle of the country here, a little disorganized, maybe a system in the southern plains that we'll have to watch for some isolated severe storms in Oklahoma and Texas as we go into Thursday and Thursday night. Heavier snows with a new system moving in across the west on Thursday. More snow for the Cascades and the Sierras. More rain for the lower elevations. This system will tend to go more north, so British Columbia, like Vancouver, could be seeing some very heavy snowfall to end next week on Friday. Very heavy rain for Seattle and Portland as well. And then, of course, our leading system over here, we'll be watching for more isolated strong storms from Kentucky down into Tennessee, Mississippi, and Louisiana on Friday. Again, I'm not expecting a severe weather outbreak or tornado outbreak or anything like that, but some isolated strong to severe storms will be possible with all modes later next week. And just to touch on the severe weather, we have a little bit of what you call CAPE, convective available potential energy. This is essentially your storm energy. The higher the number, the higher the chance for thunderstorms and thus severe weather. weather. Thursday into Friday time frame, post-Christmas, the 26th, 27th, seeing those values getting up into the 1,000, 1,500 range across the Arklatex region, the Arkla-Miss region as well. And you can see a mid and upper level jet rounding the base of that trough. It's not the strongest jet we've ever seen. We've definitely seen stronger ones in the springtime, and also not the strongest low level jet, but it's just enough to get those storms to rotate, producing the potential for large hail, damaging winds, and a couple of tornadoes out there. That will be something we'll watch as we go into later on in the week. Colorado State for Thursday and Friday have pretty low probabilities for now. This is the Colorado State machine learning severe probabilities, an AI model that is used. Definitely does very well with severe weather in the long term, so we'll continue to watch that as we go into next week. Heavy rainfall regardless, especially for the West Coast, Washington State, Oregon, Northern California, several inches of rain. This could cause some flooding here near the coastal regions of the West Coast, and then across portions of the Ohio Valley, the Midwest, down towards the Mississippi Valley there, or the Southern Plains. Seeing some heavier rainfall throughout next week. A lot of this will be coming Wednesday onward, so Christmas Day onward through Friday, keeping an eye on that. Snowfall concerned, again, not much for the east, maybe a little bit of a system up here in the Great Lakes or the Northeast, bringing an inch or two of snow later next week. Otherwise, it's all for British Columbia. I mean, we could be literally seeing over 100 inches of snow there in Vancouver as we go through the next couple of days into next week, and then the Cascades into Washington State and Oregon, seeing a few feet of snow. The Sierra is getting absolutely hammered with a few feet of snow as well. And then up here in central and northern Idaho and the Rockies, definitely could be seeing some feet of snow as well, with some heavier snow moving in with those systems later next week too. So a lot of snow for the ski resorts out west, that is for sure. Just to touch in on the early January pattern, I know I see a lot of social media chatter about this pattern coming in, how it's showing lowering heights across the eastern U.S. Now, at a glance, it does look like a nice favorable winter setup across the eastern United States, but I will want to notice that these lowering heights may be aloft too, okay? So we have a lot of colder air aloft. Doesn't mean it's going to be necessarily the most bone-chilling cold we've ever seen in early January, but it gives you an idea that we may have some cooler air across the east. I don't think it's going to be of Arctic variety, because look at the cold air source up here. Alaska, Western Canada, the Arctic Circle is seeing a big ridge building up here, and that is kind of blocking the air from going over the cold source region of Western Canada, and since kind of forcing some of that cold air further south. And since we don't have a lot of snowpack on the ground in the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, or the Mid-Atlantic right now, this cold air is going to be modified even into early January, so something to keep in mind there. Notice how it's reflected on the temperature anomaly map. It's not the coldest anomalies we've ever seen, but it is leaning below normal. So that is important, because that could set up a storm track that could take it from East Texas up there toward the Mid-Atlantic. The northwest side of the storm track could give us some snowfall, where rainfall and a few rounds of severe weather will be something to watch from the Mid-Atlantic down to the southeast and the Gulf Coast in that early January pattern. And not to mention the West Coast and Pacific Northwest, western coastline of Canada there for British Columbia up toward Yukon. We could be seeing some very heavy moisture there as well into early January. And like I said, the northwest side, we could be seeing some snowfall in this pattern again, but that colder air in early January, don't let that cold anomaly fool you here on the height maps, because just because it shows blue does not mean it's going to be Arctic of variety. It's going to, the ridge out west is going to shut off our cold air source from Canada, and it's going to force some of that cooler air south, but as it forces it south, that snowpack is not there right now for the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, or the Mid-Atlantic, so it's going to be modified cold air, and that means temperatures are going to be marginal for snow, even in some areas that typically get snow in early January. We keep you updated on that. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel down below. Check back often for updates. Leave any comments, questions, concerns below. Share this video with friends, family, and on social media, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their Thursday out there.